So I will go ahead and call to order this meeting of the Greenfield Community Preservation Committee at 5:35 p.m. on January 26, 2023. As you may have heard me say earlier, we are recording this meeting, and if anyone else is recording, you're required to let me know now or when you begin recording. All right. So just first on the agenda is a roll call.
Taking notes.
Oh yeah, notes. So who was it at this? I forget what we said last time.
I remember what we said last time, but I had forgotten until this.
Oh, Susan. Yeah.
No.
Oh, no. Wait. Oh, no. I was looking at the
Me.
list. Yeah, Wisty. We're going first name alphabetical.
First name alphabet. Right.
All right. So Wisty's taking notes.
Okay. Sorry.
Oh, good. Thanks for the reminder.
Here.
Thank you.
All right. So let's just do a roll call vote since we're all, or a roll call attendance since we're all spread out here. It's hard for me to see where everyone is. Garth.
Here.
Garth is here. John is not here. Tom's on the phone. Susan.
Here.
Giannis.
Here.
Dave.
Here.
Donna.
Here.
Wisty.
Here.
And Travis Drury. I am also here. All right. So everyone's here except for John. All right. Next on the agenda is approval of minutes. I don't believe we have the minutes yet from the last meeting, so we don't have any minutes to review at this time.
I see that.
All right, well, that makes that easy. So next is new business. So there is one thing that we need to talk about, which is our upcoming meetings, but maybe we could save that to later on the agenda. Next meeting TBD, it says on the agenda. We can talk about that there. So we'll go ahead and skip the new business for now since we don't have any. So old business application review. First application on the list is Greenfield Pickleball Court Expansion. And who we have here representing that project?
It's me, Amy, and also Director Moore is here as well.
All right, thanks. All right, so just a reminder to everyone. I'm sorry?
And Mr. Boynton is here.
He's a silent observer and supporter, I believe.
Okay.
But he said he is of course available to answer any questions if they come up.
Silent.
All right, so just to remind everyone how we were doing these, we were just gonna jump right into, everyone on the committee has hopefully reviewed the application and filled out a scoring rubric, sent that to Christian. If you haven't done that yet for any of the projects, please do that for our next meeting probably. And then we're just going to jump right in with any questions that the committee has for the applicants and see if we can get any of our questions answered. So does anyone on the committee have, it looks like Garth. I think I saw Garth first, unless Don was first. I didn't see.
Sure. Yeah, I think I recall hearing that this also went to Capitol. And do we know the timeline on that? And it seemed to be like 60,000 per court. We're going to do 5 courts. Or maybe it was 60,000 per court. We're going to do six courts. Is that a like actual number? That's estimate? That's a like hard and fast quote from someone? Yeah, just wondering where both of those items land.
I'm gonna let Christy talk about the the courts and the pricing. I would just mention, and she can say whatever she wants about capital too. She's way smarter than me. But the capital, I am a part of the capital process because I also separately from this, I'm the chair of the school committee, and we have a role within the capital process that's very early on. We're basically the first group called the Capital Improvements and Planning Committee that review all of the requests from all of the departments. It is a 3-member panel that is the chair of Ways and Means, someone from the school committee, and then someone from planning and construction. So this time around, it was myself, Christine Forgy, and Jean Wall. And we sent it forward with a unanimous thumbs up for the project. And at that stage, we asked for the same amount that we're asking for here. And it was actually the request came from Recreation, but we are again very early on in the process, and ultimately with the budget, the capital budget, the mayor can choose to do whatever she wants and wrangle with the council over the details.
Right. Cool. Thanks.
So I did ask for clarification on the timeline, not just for CPC, but also capital, and it still seems a little gray. I was hoping that Diana was here tonight to sort of fine tune where everything goes forward to city council, both CPC and capital. But as Amy said, things can change. It took me about 15 years to get the funding for the skate park. So I'm hoping that's not going to be the case for this round of capital. But obviously, as I said before, it's a long list from all departments to try and fund with a limited pool of money that the city has. As far as the court estimate, Garth, we estimate that it's like 40,000 per court. The additional money is for any sort of sidewalk and paving improvements to make the parking. So that's why it's all included with a little bit of contingency in there, about 10,000. The numbers were based on research from fellow parks and rec projects across the state and around New England. I reach out to my colleagues, and that's how we get these numbers. I certainly can't go out and ask for a quote. We would have to follow all the procurement laws for the project to bid it.
Right. Yeah. It's not a full bid, but it's a best guess, and you're able to talk to people. So finding a reasonable options.
Right.
Cool. Thanks.
Sure.
And Donna, you had your hand up?
Yeah, I did. So I'm going to lower my hand. Thank you. I have a couple of comments and then a couple of questions. First of all, I just, as part of preparation for this meeting, I was reviewing my score sheets, and I did want to let other commissioners know that although we only saw 2 letters of support with the initial proposal, just being on the rec commission, I know that people are asking for this like crazy. The 1 court that we have is not sufficient to fill the capacity. So looking at the, like trying to increase that capacity, this seems like a really sort of timely thing because people are crazy about this game. I haven't played it yet, so I'm not quite sure why. And then in terms of questions, I guess I would just ask the applicants to sort of think about, and this is actually a question for Christy too, that I didn't ever ask before. I understand that parking is rolled into the courts. Now, if we were to like, so the price of a court is sort of like the price of 4 courts plus parking divided by 4 is what I think I'm hearing said here. Because the ultimate question that we ask everybody is, and we should have asked this in the proposal, what if you can't get fully funded? Like, how can you deal with that? And like, is there a middle point? And it sounds like there's a lot of balls in play with capital, et cetera, but I'll leave it there.
Sure. Well, I know you weren't at the last meeting, unfortunately, but you took Susan's question because that was what she was asking every applicant. And I would say like all of our projects, and I think Amy will probably speak on this, like if we don't get all the funding from CPC or we don't get all the funding from capital, we'll have to piece together what we have. And then we're gonna go to the public and ask for donations, fundraising efforts, that kind of stuff. And then also we might have to do it in phases. You know, we may only be able to build 2 courts or 3 courts. And then the parking, obviously you get a better price on the blacktop if you do the whole project. So we'll just have to figure out what we do with parking, if it has to be stone dust or something simpler in the beginning, and then eventually maybe get more money for paving.
Thank you.
Yeah, I would just add a couple of things. This is, well, I got involved, I should tell this part. I got involved with this project having never played a full game of pickleball before. I was really interested in Todd Boynton, who's on the call as a member of the public here tonight. I was really interested in the way he was talking about it, the way he was expressing the wide generational interests. And he invited myself and City Councilor Penny Ricketts to come down and get a lesson and experience pickleball one Saturday over the summer. I think it was in July or August. And we did that, she and I, and we brought my son, Joe, who was 10 at the time. And when we got there, there's a community of folks who were there of multiple generations, which is why I mentioned Joe. There were kids that were his age that were there playing pickleball or waiting to play pickleball. And there were folks who were retired and enjoying the game, and all together, generationally, just an amazing community experience. Also the culture of pickleball really interested me. People are so positive about it being a growing sport and being able to teach each other and having all of these, really just positive, multi-generational experiences, regardless of skill level. And I think that piece is really important too, because these are courts where we could do a tournament, or we could do lessons, or, people can just knock around. And so when I saw that, the first thing that I did was I went back the next day when Todd wasn't there, just to make sure that I wasn't he didn't like orchestrate this whole thing to have a whole bunch of people there when he invited us down there. And I took Councilor Ricketts with me again and Joe with me again. There were just as many people there playing pickleball on a Sunday morning at 10 a.m. as there were the day before. And I could not even believe it. And again, it was multi-generational. It was people from all over the valley. And so there's that economic driver piece of it as well. And then, what are we going to do if we don't get all the money? So there's the capital request. Donna mentioned the balls in the air. And then what I like to call, it sounds like Joe is serenading you all. I'm sorry about that. He's having a ball in the background there, if you can hear it. I call it the skate park model, right? We'll go out and we'll ask people. And I think what's also interesting and important to mention here is that because this is already such a strong community, I am really encouraged that this is a piece that will be well received. And I would include in that also something that we included in our proposal that's kind of tangential, which is this is a group of people and a community of people that when there's work to be done, when there's maintenance to be done, when you need volunteers for an event, they will be there as a community en masse, even if it's not pickleball, and you ask them to help at Winter Carnival or whatever. I mean, I think this is really something that in Greenfield we should be extremely proud of, that we have come this far already. We'll always be known as the first ones in the region to have a municipal pickleball court. You can't ever take that away from us. And so to expand it, I think it's just something we'll be able to do by, cobbling together the different pieces. And I think that's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
All right. Thanks. Susan had a question.
Yeah, it's an economies of scale question, and Christy may be able to answer it better than Amy. But by the way, I have seen the numbers of people, because I take my dog to the dog park, I've seen the numbers of people, and you're absolutely right. There are a huge number of people, and sometimes the basketball court is taken over with pickleball and all the rest of that. I've seen all that. Christy, considering that, this is $300,000, and let's say you don't get anything else, and we have to cut it back, is there an economy of scale that makes sense? So for instance, is one court too little, two courts make sense in terms of having this happen?
I would say the minimum would definitely be 2, because you can't, that's the problem where we are at Green River. With 1, you can't really do a tournament. And obviously if we had 2 and plus the one at Green River, that would be 3. I don't know if you want to ask Todd, who's here, if he has a suggestion on what the minimum is, but I would definitely say 2 at Abercrombie, because
Don't
as you
give
know,
him
4
that
people
opening. He's going to say he needs 12 courts.
well, he knows that we have very limited funds, so.
I don't know if you can even hear me.
We can hear you fine.
My first Zoom call ever. I definitely come from the projects. We didn't have anything. So to ask for anything seems just outlandish. Sure, we want 24 courts. There's not money for that. We have 1 court. Thank you to Greenfield for having it. Pickleball is exploding around the country, and I think it started here. It's everywhere now. If we got 1 more, that'd be great. There really is no economy of scale. We can make do with what we have. We're doing it now. Anytime you come down there this spring, it will be packed with 1 court and 2 basketball courts that we're taking over. But if somebody wants to play basketball, we turn them into pickleball players. That's the community. So there's no little amount, there's no big amount. It's just your support. We get this done. Thank you for listening. I did my first Zoom call.
Congratulations.
Congrats.
Mr. Chairman,
Yeah, go ahead, Tom.
thank you. Christie's going to be amazed. I think this is a great project for CPC money. I really do. I've seen it. I've seen it expand. I've seen it take on multi-generation. I think it's a great thing. Of course, I'm as frugal as they come. I would like to see a split. I'd like to do all 6. I think it makes sense to do the maximum amount that the $300,000 will buy. I think the sport's that popular and is going to continue to gain in popularity. I'm a little concerned with the Abercrombie area, not because I don't want to see it there, but I do think if there is to be a renovation of the school and both buildings on the school into something else, that the town may be asked for access to where those are going to go as a match toward any grant that was available for housing or economic development or whatever. I'm okay with them there. It's not a big deal. It's just a caution I put up. I'd like to see all 6 of them funded, however.
All right, Christy. I saw you had your hand up.
Yes, thank you. Tom, I wish I could see your face and that you could have seen mine, but thank you for your support. It was happy to hear. I just want to share that I have had conversations with the developers at the center school, so they are aware of this project, and they actually, believe it or not, are a fan of pickleball, so they seemed receptive to it. The school itself will be apartments, some sort style of apartments, and then the other space closest to it is a commercial, and they're working on filling that with a commercial renter currently.
Right. Yeah,
So-
we're not, we're just looking, we've had some discussions about things, but I just wanted to be sure that was just put on the table. I'm not trying to thwart the project at all. I'd love to see it happen.
All right, thanks. I think Dave had a question.
I know we've talked about this in the past, but I need a little refreshing. I'm still struggling with the timing of the different parts to try to bring them together in a meaningful way. Can you, I guess, Christie, remind me of the timing for the capital process so that and how that would fit into our decision-making process?
Yeah, so that's what I said in the beginning, Dave, is that I was hoping that Diana, our new finance director, was here. Because my understanding, and Amy, you may know this being on the school committee as well, that the mayor has to present the budget and capital to city council, I think 60 days before the end of the year to vote. So does that, let's see, that's May 1st then,
May
is that right?
1st?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I believe capital sometimes follows that same process, but in other times it's been earlier. So is it the same, Amy?
You're exactly right. It usually follows the same process or cycle as the operating budget, but it does it is completely separate funds, and it does kind of fall away sometimes, but the intent is for those two processes, operating capital, to kind of finish simultaneously. And the new year starts July 1. So in theory, you would know 60 days before that, sometime in May. And that's, it varies, but that is, Mayor Wiedegartner has been pretty true to that timeline during her time in office for the most part.
And
Thank you.
what I'm not clear, Dave, if you guys follow that same calendar.
Well, we're a
Yeah.
little fluid on that, I guess, aren't we?
Yeah, well, I think we're going to talk about this later about our upcoming
We're
meetings.
above the law.
No, we're going to talk about our upcoming meetings, but Christian came up with like a timeline for our next meetings and maybe what we could do at each of those meetings. And where he had it set was March 23rd, we would be voting on project recommendations. So I think that would be before the capital process. So we would be first, which kind of leads me into at the last meeting, we talked about how Garth, Christian, and I met with Stuart and talked about all the projects, and got Stuart from the Community Preservation Coalition. And on this project, he said, hold on, let me find it in this list. I just saw it. Okay. Yeah, so he said that we could make the recommendation for funding contingent upon appropriation from capital budget. So we could say, we'll give you 100,000 if capital gives you 200,000, or, something like that. He said, but with our limited amount of funds, it's tough. It's a tough ask. So it's hard to, because then if it doesn't get funded, then there are other projects that we didn't fund at all and we could have. And so his advice was either that this project should come back next year after it goes through the capital funding process to see if they got capital funding and how much, and then we could supplement that afterwards. He said, or you could do the contingent recommendation. And he said, seems too early, like that it seems too early for this project to be here before going through capital funding. So that was his opinion. And I think that was his opinion on any of the projects that are up for capital funding too. So just throwing that out there. Did you want to say something?
Christie.
Oh, yeah, go ahead, Christie.
I'll follow.
Excuse me, I appreciate his comments, but I also feel like that's conflicting because if you guys could approve the money and then if we don't need it, then we can do a rescind with a financial order. And then you guys could always have a meeting and then gift that to a different entity. You don't have to follow the same fiscal year schedule. I mean, we had said before that you could do this twice a year. So if somebody came back and said, hey, I really need this amount of dollars because, the recreation's pickleball court didn't need it all, or whoever else. So I just want to make sure that everyone knows that as well.
Mr. Chairman,
Yeah, go ahead, Tom.
I am in much more support of a contingent motion to put some, I don't want to say pressure, but to let the capital committee know that we're willing, but we're willing to be a partner. And we could go back afterwards if the capital said no to any funding and revisit this. But I think any project that is already in the queue to be reviewed by capital, we should, this is my opinion, we should try to be a partner with the capital committee and other agencies of the town, and partner up and try to share the burden so we can spread ours a little farther and they can spread theirs a little farther. And I think a contingent motion makes sense.
Okay, Susan.
Yeah, Christy, having lived through the skate park with you, how are you reading this in terms of, is this something that's multi-year as a project to get it all done, or how are you reading it in terms of what you're hearing? I'm just thinking of, we have the capacity to be able to commit funds for next year, and make that part of our plan. So I'm just curious as to where things are from your perspective.
Are you asking, excuse me, are you asking me to sort of predict the future with city council and capital?
No, I'm not asking you to predict the future. I'm asking you to read tea leaves, actually. Is it, I mean, what do you, having gone through this before, do you have any sense that this is something that is likely in the next year, 2 years, that kind of thing?
I think that this is a project that can easily be finished in a construction season. This is a very straightforward project. It's blacktop, it's fencing, it's top coat paint. It's
right.
Obviously you have to excavate, get the earthwork done, but it's very straightforward. Our skate park project is a lot more complicated, and they have very tight timelines, as you know, to get that done. And that's why I have no fingernails left, because I keep freaking out, but we're going to make it happen. So I mean, as Amy said, as Todd had said, the community is really around this. I know that there's city councilors who are in support of pickleball as well. But it all depends on, as I said before, like I go against other departments, life and safety. And as important as recreation is, we never get to be fully above them. Now, I think we need to be, because I think we have an effect on everyone's health and well-being, as you guys all know, but I just never know what those other requests are. And I'm not even sure what else was put forward in the capital improvement committee that has moved forward to the mayor. I only know that mine were approved. Well, one wasn't.
Thanks.
Donna?
Yeah, I just wanted to follow up on what Tom said about supporting a motion to do the contingency, which I think is something that, when we get to the point of actually voting on these projects, which we're not there yet, then that would be something that we should consider. I just wanted to be clear that we're not voting on the project or actually on anything right now.
Yeah, not yet.
Right.
Yeah, we still need to have a public hearing and get more public feedback and stuff first too. All right. If there's no other questions, I think we can move on to the next agenda item, so we don't get too far behind here. Christy, you got one more thing?
Yeah,
Thank
I'll
you
just say
very
one more
much.
thing. Oh, sorry.
Oh,
Go
I
ahead.
just said thank you.
Oh, I wasn't sure who was talking. I just want to remind everybody that the majority of the submissions for CPC, I think it was 80% were recreation. So I just want to make sure that we all remember that when we're dividing the pie, that the 80% is actually rec. Okay.
Since Christy brought that up, I also want to quickly mention this in this group, and any of you who know me know I also will mention it to other appropriate folks that should hear it. Our recreation department works incredibly hard with almost no staff.
Right.
And now we are adding CPA and adding projects to their plate. And no one is yet talking about adding staff. And I know Christy is going to ask for additional human resources support to come to the recreation department. But anyone who can say that to anyone who might have a hand in making that happen, like the mayor, the Ways and Means, all of those folks, it's super important that we have the infrastructure and the people in place to make these projects successful and to be able to support the things that people in town want to see. And so we need to spread that message that they need more staff far and wide. And I thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so.
I would like to say something. Just before we get off, you know, and respecting Christy, what you said, given how many applications are from recreation, it would be really helpful to me if I had a sense of some kind of priority that your department had, whether or not you're comfortable doing that. Because, you know, one option is to divide the pot of money 18 ways, giving everybody a couple pennies. So I just would say that it would be really helpful if we had some kind of sense about that. Not tonight. You don't even have to respond except to say, thanks, Wisty, I'll do it.
Yeah, no, my response to you, Wisty, is thanks. You want me to be, you know, take the sword is what you want. I think they're all important. But, you know, obviously I know that we can't do them all. Like my wish list is extensive. There's so many things that you haven't even seen yet. So I'm already working on next year's applications for you. But I know you're going to have more meetings to discuss, and I think that's maybe when we should have that conversation.
Okay.
Great. Okay. Just be ready for it.
All right. Thanks, everybody. All right, so our next application review project is Historical Society Document Preservation.
Yay, I made it.
All right. If you could just introduce yourself.
Yes, I can. I'm Meg Baker, and I'm the secretary of the Historical Society of Greenfield. I'm also the chair of the curatorial committee at the Historical Society.
Okay.
And that'll do for an introduction. I've
All right.
lived in town for 23 years now.
Thanks. And I think you may have come in after we said this, but basically we're just, you know, we've all read the applications and we've got our questions and we're just going to throw questions.
Excellent, thank you.
So.
And I apologize for being late. Thank you for responding to the emails of where the heck is the.
Yeah, it's a little hard to find. All right, does anyone have any questions they want to start off with on this project? Garth has his hand up. Tom, I'll get you right after Garth.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, I was in on the meeting with Stuart, and I guess the question he brought up, which somewhat made sense, was on the document staffing funding, who does that go to? Is that paying volunteers? Is that paying the current director? Is that paying?
That's a great question. Right now, the Historical Society has no paid staff. It's an entirely volunteer organization, and I could go on and on about that. So we do have people involved in the Historical Society as volunteers who are highly qualified to do this kind of in-depth archival work. I'm also the curator of the Hatfield Historical Museum. Christine Reitok, who's on our board, was a curator at the Flint Center in historic Deerfield for a long time. Van and Molly Wood, who have just stepped off our board but are still very involved as volunteers, run Small Corp in town, which provides world-class museum enclosures. We have very, very qualified people. And that would be something we'd happily answer all kinds of more questions if you want, but I understand also that this is a beginning of a conversation. Mm-hmm. When I started in Hatfield in 2015, I started there as a CPA-funded person doing this kind of work in collections that they had needed the work done. They had a curator who had, age had become a factor, but nobody wanted to step up into that. And so there was a great assortment of things that had piled up. And through the CPA in Hatfield and the board in Hatfield, they made some very, very proactive decisions to spend money to protect the town's collection. So I also have the experience to do that. I think that will answer for now. Obviously, if you have any follow-ups, I just don't want to take anybody's time too much. I know there's other questions.
Yeah, and, Tom, I'll get to you in a second. I just wanted to add what he was talking about is in the application, it says personnel, $5,000 from CPA funds, $8,000 volunteer hours.
Yep.
And when we talked to Stuart, his concern was that the $5,000 CPA funds was going to go towards funding someone who was already being paid at the historic.
There's no paid staff. We would love it. We would love it if there were paid staff. There's no paid staff.
Tom, do you want to go ahead? And then Dave?
My only comment, I guess I must have eaten a lot of candy this morning. This is also one of the areas where I think in my history in municipal management, we've done it. This is an excellent venue for using CPA funding. That's all.
Okay, thanks. Dave, you had a question, and then Donna?
Yeah, thank you. I'm very much in favor of this project, but I'm trying to fit it into what I know or don't know about the Historical Society. I was looking at your website today, and I couldn't figure out exactly when I could go in and see all of these exhibits, and it wasn't clear. And I guess there are a couple of websites which confused me. So I just wondered if you could talk a little bit about how these documents, the letters and the photos and everything, come to be exhibited in your facility, and how is that available to the public?
Excellent. Thank you so much. Yes, the website situation is confusing. We had a social media committee meeting last night, and we have a new website that will be rolling out shortly, hopefully, again, all volunteer. The museum has a fairly active Facebook page. We are open seasonally from the beginning of May till the end of October. It is too cold in the building at 43 Church. It's a big brick building. We can't heat it through the winter. Through a lot of economizing and using certain spaces, we have a little bit of workspace through the winter, but the exhibit floor is not open. It's always open by appointment. If you email hsgreenfield 1907, make an appointment. There are definitely, we have 8 volunteers. We're averaging about 80 hours every month of volunteer action in the building, sometimes higher. So it's always available by appointment. We're open seasonally, but we very much need more people. All of you, it's the same thing that Christy was saying. If we can get more staff, we would love to be open more. We would love it. One of the benefits to having you make an appointment is because then when I apply for grant funding, we can use that as an open day if someone's been there. Because one of the issues with an all volunteer institution that runs on, you hear runs on a shoestring, runs on fumes. And when I arrived there in 2016, we were running on the memory of fumes. Myself and Christine and other people have been very successful getting little grants to sort of build the energy back up. But we do need more people. We really do. So that would let us be open more. Usually we try to be open the first and second, or actually it depends on people's availability. It's the first and third Saturday of each month. But, getting staff from museums, especially when you're all volunteers, is very hard. So I hope that answers your question.
Just about. I'm still wondering, so once these documents, flyers, photos,
Yep.
letters and so forth are put in a preserved form, do you have the space to exhibit them or do they go back in the boxes?
No, we do. One of the things we've done over the pandemic, since we had to close down entirely, is we took advantage of some of the funds that were made available at the federal level for museums and so on to make a ramp, wheelchair accessible entry into the first floor. And the entire first floor is museum exhibits. We're right now beginning to put together an exhibit on railroads, rivers, roads, and rails. It's very exciting. I'm going to send out, get me your email. I will send you all the information. There's a woman coming from the Sacramento Railroad Museum who's been researching Anna Pierce Judah extensively, and she is coming out to present her research here in town in June. Very excited. So all of those items, all of those items from this state, everything that's covered in this, will rotate into exhibit space in the first floor as appropriate. Right now, there's items from Helen Spencer Miller and Marguerite Gray Spencer on exhibit in the first floor. Peter was a huge railroad buff. There's a lot of railroad things that will come in through that exhibit, including one of my favorite things, which is the work uniform of his grandfather. We always find in museums like the big fancy clothes, like the really special, the wedding dress or the christening gown. This is a pair of denim overalls and a denim workman's jacket that was worn here in town by someone who was an engineer on the Boston and Maine Railroad in 1920. They're patched, they're stained. I love them.
All right. Did that answer your question, Dave?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Donna, you want to go ahead?
Yeah, my question sort of follows up Dave's. I sort of gave you a range in my scoring sheet because I wasn't really clear regarding accessibility. One of the things that we have to look at is, how is this going to benefit the wider, like how much of the community is this going to benefit and how can you ensure access? And I know that you said you had an electronic database, but what I'm hearing is that would be more like a list rather than you're not going to actually have these documents available for people to view online. So that's my question. And then my other question, I'm just going to get them both out right now, is what is the current state of the documents? Where are they being held and are they stable?
Excellent, thank you. I'm going to answer the first one, or the second one first. Currently, all the boxes and such, they're in a space probably half the size of this room. And there are five shelf racks filled with boxes. We moved about 100 boxes out of Peter Miller's house and another 100 physical objects that weren't necessarily in boxes. Yeah, wow. It was a lot. The story is exciting history in and of itself. We can go ahead and do another time. Right now, they're as best they can be. The place they're in is not great climate controlled, but we do have great advantage of people on staff making the best we can do with a little amount of money. Peter left us some money in his will very generously, which we used to get museum quality shelves to hold mostly his things. As we work through the items, those, of course, will get repurposed for other projects because we're always going to need room for shelves. So right now, the documents, papers, photographs, maps, clothing, all that sort of stuff is secure, but it's not really accessible. And that goes to your second question. Right now, it's stuff that we went through Peter's house, and we recognize that this is historically valuable as best we can tell, given the short amount of time we have because of the burst water pipe at Peter's house. Yeah, and so we've done a good first pass. Doing the second pass means understanding what we have. And that leads to the third pass, which is making it publicly available. That's part of our mission. That would be creating finding aids, which we would then ultimately, yes, put online. You know, these other, if you look online at other museums, you can see, you know, a list of, you know, thus and such museum contains this many boxes of this estate, and the boxes are itemized out. Yes, we want to do that. It's a long process. And that's one of the hardest things to face with this sort of amount of material, is that the process of going from all of this stuff to having documents scanned online that anyone can look at takes time. One of the advantages we have is the possibility of working with the Digital Commonwealth through Boston Public Library. Once we itemize through all of these documents and identify, this is what we have, these are the ones that are highest priority to scan and make digitally available, we can call them, they would come out, pick up the documents, take them to Boston, scan them free of charge, return them to us, and host them on the Boston Public Library Digital Commonwealth site for everyone to see, which I think is extremely cool. It gives people all over the world the opportunity to see all the documents that we have that are important. But we have to know what we have first. Boston Public Library won't accept them if they don't know what we're sending.
Yeah. Susan.
Mr. Chairman,
Oh, Susan was gonna go real quick and then I'll get to you.
This is my patented question. If you don't get all the money, what happens?
If we don't get all the money, we still, this is the thing, the true thing, we still do the work. It just takes a lot longer. This money would allow us to have dedicated person or people who would spend the time. Right now, like we could hire someone who could come in for 4 hours a week or 40 hours a week and go through the work. That would be amazing. That would take it from, you know, by volunteers, even, we have some great volunteers, but volunteers looking at it, knowing from where I sit with my experience, we're looking at 5 to 7 years of getting through this project. If we have funds to dedicate to that, we're looking at 2, maybe 3. And less before there start being results, you know? If we have people who can put in time in a dedicated way, we can start sharing that right away.
So let me ask you, assuming, let's say you get the money that you're asking.
Yep.
Can we expect you to come back next year?
I mean, if you want me to.
No, I know, I'm asking this, I'm asking this in part because we plan multiple year stuff, but I
Yeah.
also think I'm asking this in relation to our whole ability to be able to fund.
I really appreciate that. The board was very encouraging that we asked for the entirety that we needed for this project, the Historical Society Board. There's a lot of other projects at the Historical Society that might fall within the purview of a CPA, but we understand this is a big deal. One of the things that's valuable about Peter Miller's estate is that there's a lot of people around who know him and knew what he was working on. Yeah. So as we've begun doing this sort of work, like reaching out to this board and other community people saying, hey, we need help, we're putting together this railroad exhibit, we're getting more and more people who are a little bit familiar with what his interests were, what his collection was like. And that's a wonderful thing, having people say, hey, I knew a little bit. Dave Allen, who did the Greenfield maps, he's just offered to maybe come and look at the maps that we've got from Peter's estate. Phenomenal. So if we don't get any of the funding, we'll do the work anyway.
Yeah, I understand. What I'm looking at is the whole question of partial,
Yep.
and then if you'd be coming back to continue the process or not.
I we really tried to put the whole piece on the table.
Thank you.
If there were other things in the future, it would be other things entirely.
Great.
You know, unless we discover like an incredible rare manuscript that we're like, hey, we'd love to have this, you know, but.
Got it.
Tom, you had a question?
Yeah, it's more of it's a question and a concern. While I am still remain very supportive of this, I am concerned that with the building not being heated or fully heated during the course of the winter months due to cost, I get that.
Yeah.
I get concerned about the integrity of the documents. And is there a plan, or is it something that you could look at for the future, be it CPA or capital or state funding or federal funding, to put or a
This is great. I love that.
To get the humidity factor? I just get concerned for the documents themselves.
Right. Cold is okay. Too hot, too dry, too hot, too dry, too wet. Those are big problems. We constantly are thinking about the environmental conditions in the building. We have temperature and humidity trackers that we record when we're in the building.
Yeah.
The heated portion of the building is kept at like 55. It's two
Right.
workrooms upstairs and down so that we can work during the winter. There's a little space heater and a little air conditioner up in the library so that the librarian can work in some comfort. One of the things, again, under the bulk of the pandemic was really work to make the building as climate stable as possible. We did a ton of work on the roof. We did a ton of work on, the heating system, water system to make it as stable as possible. I feel comfortable about the items in the position that they are in now. I would always, of course, I'd always love to improve it.
Thank you very much for the answer.
Yep.
All right. Not seeing any other questions at the moment. I was just going to throw in, going back to the conversation with Stuart, his thoughts on this project. His main comment was about public access to the documents. And he said that's tough in projects like this. And he said it could be that there could be a provision to either pay back CPA funds or the documents become city property if the historical society folds. Like that was another issue. Like if the historical society was no more, what happened to these documents that we put all this CPA money into?
Can I?
Yeah.
So the Historical Society owns the building outright. We bought the building in 1914. It's an extensive collection. Please, I would love to have all of you make appointments to come and see it. I'll take you through a tour through all the places that we don't usually have open to the public. The hope is that never happens. Over the what is it? We 112 years now that we've been around. It's very much an ebb and flow. You have times when there's two people holding the lights on, and you have times when there's a lot of energy and vibrancy and activity going on. So far, at every juncture, including March of 2016, when there was a major water break in a wall in the museum, and that was a point when the museum as an organization could have said, we can't handle this, and closed up and gone away. But instead, it pivoted to how do we reinvest? How do we reinvigorate? How do we get more people involved? I would say that it probably isn't necessary even to put as a stipulation, because that is always on a museum board's mind of what happens. What happens if we can't? What happens? Because we don't pour years of our love and labor into a collection like that and then be like, I don't know, it could sit and rot. No, oh my gosh, no, there has to be a continuity of care. So if for some terrible reason it would at some point far in the future, there would be a responsible and ethical. But it wouldn't just be Peter's collection. You'd get 3 floors full of thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of, it'd be a whole nother picture. But, you know, if I dream big, it's about having another location where we can have more museum things, but it's another.
All right.
Agreed.
Anyone have any other questions before we move on to the next project? Nope. All right. Well, thanks for being here.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Nice to see you all.
All right. So
Did I miss you? Are you up next?
he's up next.
Okay.
So next on the agenda is the shop equipment preservation project. And that's what you're here for.
Yes, I'm Jim Terrapane, representing the Museum of our Industrial Heritage.
All right. Anyone have any questions to start off with on this one? Dave's got one. He's going in first.
This is going to sound like a broken record, I think, but I have really the same questions of you that I have of the Historical Society, which has to do with access, really. It's not clear that I could just kind of come and walk in and say hi. And the website is not very clear about that either. So I just would appreciate it. I think it's a great project, frankly, but I would appreciate it if you would enlighten us a little bit about the accessibility of this.
Sure. Currently, during the summer, we're open Saturday afternoons. Rest of the year, we're open by appointment. We really don't have enough traffic to support somebody being there, you know, all the time. But on our website, anybody can go and book an appointment and come in year round. We're fully heated now. So, and you know, we're gradually expanding the hours that we can be open. This is the first year we really had fully heated spaces. So at least now we're planning, we got programs going during the winter, bring people in. So not too much different than the Historical Society. It's, you know, the other aspect is this would be a real good piece to put on our website. So it would get worldwide attention that way. So.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Just a quick follow-up and then Donna, in your application, you said, we also hope to engage more schools to encourage student visits. Do you have schools come now?
Not regularly, but it is, we have programs that we do run. It's hard for the schools to make these trips. In the past, we've actually gone out to schools and, you know, we're always open to have school groups come. And this machine that we're proposing to restore is at a scale where people could actually use it, some hands-on. And it would augment part of our programs already. People come visit, we got hands-on things that they can do. This will amplify that somewhat. So, yeah, I mean, it's like chicken and the egg, you know, like once we, you know, that would be another boost of getting people, a reason to bring people in. Yeah.
Donna, you have a question?
Yeah, thanks. So I love this idea. But I did have a question about your budget, because your total budget is $1,200 with 1,000 from CPA and 2,000 or 200 from other sources. And then you also list the $200 is from the museum, but you also have like $1,000 in volunteer hours, which is you guys actually like pulling this off. So it's listed as an in-kind, and it seems to me like the total budget should actually be a request for $1,200 with a $1,200 match, and I don't know if my fellow commissioners have any clarification on that. Because you get a better score if your funds match more, so I just
Right.
point that out.
Right now, the way we envision it is, I think most of the money will be, fabricating some parts which are missing. We have the main unique parts of the component, but we need to make some structural parts, and, we would use local mechanics, fabricators to help out on that. So.
So commissioners,
Yeah.
does this become an equal match? I mean, most people, I think, have listed in kind as out of their total budget. And I just wanted to point out that that doesn't show
Yeah.
here. Because that's 100% match if it is.
Yeah, I had that question too. Yeah, so I mean, yeah, like she said, it says museum volunteers, fabrication and assembly, $1,000 in kind. So you are gonna have volunteers and
Well-
1,000 hours worth of volunteers, $1,000 worth? Is that what,
Yeah, I mean, the reality is, you
I mean,
know,
they'll be doing it for free, but
yeah, I mean, it's, we're probably the only people that are going to be capable of putting it together the way it's supposed to be. So it's going to be us. And like I said, most of the money, I think, is going to buy, we need to buy some electrical components, have the fabricating done. And, you know, I'm not really sure how to express our contributions, but we can do this thing for the money we're asking.
yeah.
No
Yeah.
problem.
I think to me, then that does make sense that really the total budget, I think, is $2,400. And you're gonna get $200 in funds from other sources, $1,000 in funds from us, you know, if we did, and then $1,200. Oh, no, wait, it's actually 1,000 is the other volunteers. So really it's 2,200 is the total. Right, 2,200 is the total, 1,000 from CPA, 2,000 from Museum of Industrial Heritage, and 1,000 in-kind volunteer hours. I think that's,
No,
no?
I'm sorry, I'm looking at it on my screen right now. They're requesting 1,000 from CPA. They're
Yeah.
gonna chuck in $200 of their own, and they're also gonna get $1,000 of in-kind. So that's a
So it's
1,200 match. That's what I'm pointing out. I think that this needs to be looked at as a 50% match and more than 100%.
More than 50%, yeah.
But it's 1,000 from CPA,
And 1,000 in
1,000
volunteer and $200
cash.
from
Right.
museum. So that's,
So
so 12, so it's 2,200, of which they're asking 1,000.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, I thought that's what I said.
Yeah,
Maybe that's not what I said.
Sorry about that.
But they're going through it.
As you can see, I'm no grant.
It's okay.
No, I mean, I understand it. You're right. The total budget would be.
That's better for you. Just,
Yeah.
you know, that is better for you in
Yeah.
terms of.
Yeah.
This may be really out of order, but I'm just
Go ahead.
gonna say, documents are wonderful, but y'all, you have the skill. And so.
Oh, this is a big bang for the buck, I guarantee.
Yeah.
You know, it's, some of this is kind of a small niche, but when you go worldwide, there's people around the world that are just fascinated with the things that were made here. And
Yeah.
so that's a big piece of it, getting, you know, we always try to get stuff on the website.
It's one of the things I wish, like, if there was another CPA thing we could do at some point, would be some sort of town outreach, and we go to schools and the town and everybody, like, Greenfield Tap and Die is a name that is worldwide forever, and I feel like it's, you can't say it enough, and that you all have the pieces there is astonishing.
Right. And, you know, we're not going anywhere. We're progressing and, you know, as we can get more grant money, we'll build on these programs. They're more like pilots right now, you know, but school programs, whatever. This will enhance it.
This has nothing to do with this proposal, but I think I want to say it anyway, and this goes for both of you. You ought to be talking to the Chamber of Commerce that has tourism money. And to make sure that you're on their list, but also that you may be able to get some additional funds to do some of the other things you want to do. So that's my comment.
Okay. Non-CPA.
Non-CPA related stuff, yeah.
Yeah. Anyone have any other questions on this one? Tom, did you want to?
No, I'm good, thank you.
Okay, all right. So I'll just go to Stuart's comments again on this one. He said, well, this one was reviewed right after the historical societies, and he said, same issue with private organization, can't put preservation restriction on equipment/documents, how to ensure public benefit, clawback provision potentially if MOIH is not open, have them describe it really well. Same issue with having volunteers paid for work.
I'd like to make a clarification.
Yeah.
We're a public organization, 501c3. So just that distinction, it's not a private organization like the Historic Society.
Yeah, and I think it's just the difference between us giving money to a city department or outside the city government. I think that's what he means.
Right.
So, but not just a for-profit.
You know, I always say, if I can get people into the museum, I'll convince you. So take a look.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, if no one has any other questions, that was our last application to review in this multiple meetings in a row that we've gotten through here. All right. Well, thanks for being here.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome to stay.
Yeah, you're welcome to stay.
I'm gonna go eat dinner.
Go have dinner, which might be something.
We will have more meetings and we're going to have a public hearing to try to get public feedback. So
Yeah.
you feel free to come or tell people to come or whatever.
Good luck.
Thank you all very much. I'm so glad that all of you were here and interested in supporting stuff.
All right. Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay. So next on.
Wait, Travis.
Oh, sure.
You and Garth, and who was the third person?
Stuart from the community preservation. Oh, and
Christian? Okay.
Yeah, the three of us. Okay, so next on our agenda is press release for application / public feedback form. And I believe Christian sent the form, the current format to everyone. Thank you for Donna again.
Thank you, Donna.
For putting it all together.
You're welcome. And somebody responded already. We have one response. Yeah. I don't know if it was like a tester. Do any of you live on Beach Street?
No, I don't know. I don't know what that was.
I tried filling it out.
Yeah, I did too, yeah.
Not on Beach Street.
Tried, but did you succeed? Because I only see one response.
No, because if you say you want to comment on the 8th one, it then forces you to do the 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th, 13th, 14th, all the way through. So I think I hopped to, I don't even know which one, and gave some comment on that. And then when you press next, it brings you to
the next one on the list.
All right, so
project.
then I guess what I need to do is create one last page that says submit, from the sounds of it.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, okay, let me think about that. I think it's gonna have to be like in each section, it's gonna say keep going or finish or something. Yeah, okay. Good, thanks for trying.
Yeah. Yeah, that was my only comment too, was I ran into that too. Just testing it out. So did anyone else have any other feedback?
No, that was the one thing.
Okay.
Yeah, other than that, it seemed good.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know how complex it is to, right? We want people to be able to give comment on 1 to 14
Right.
items. So it's definitely
Yeah.
a little challenging to figure out what the workflow looks like for that.
Yeah, well, I think
Within-
we're close, yeah.
So, oh, yeah, go ahead, Dave.
Well, mine is a little picky. When we're really wanting comments. We have the 3 things to check off. And I just, somehow I wanted a stronger invitation to please give us your comments, or a bigger box, or a bold print.
Here's your chance.
Yeah.
We could make it
that's really-
required.
That's really where the meat of the
Mhm.
opinion is down at the very bottom, and it's just to kind of get there, so, oh yeah, I guess they want additional comments.
Okay, so yeah, I mean, I think that that's a little tricky, because on the one hand, we could make it a required question, but
No, I
then I
wouldn't do
think
that.
that would make everybody not be able to get out until they commented on each one.
I
So,
think I just suggesting maybe a little more language, like, we really would appreciate your comments, or, a stronger invitation than just additional comments.
sure.
And I don't feel strongly about that, but that was my reaction when I got to the bottom of the page.
Well, I'm happy to do that. Does somebody want to send me language? Dave, do you want to craft something that really make people comment? So I'd be happy to put it in there. Or anybody
Right now,
Kristen's
Why
got
don't I help you and say, we eagerly await your comments.
Yeah, I mean, I think something along the lines of, it's thank you for giving your vote, but we really want to hear why something, yeah. Yeah, it's been a bit kind of a challenging month for me so far, so, yeah,
Well,
yeah.
It's good work, for
Yeah,
sure.
thanks. Just trying to figure out what my capacity for doing stuff is right now.
And I guess I'll just add that Donna also sent this to Christian, who can edit it also. So Donna, if you don't have the time or whatever to do it, Christian could probably make some last minute edits and.
Yeah, I think I would like to, get somebody's language so I can just drop it in,
I'm writing something for you now.
Susan's writing it.
Okay, good.
She'll send it to you. All right, so I guess if we have this form, the other part is we were talking about having a press release to not only tell people that this form is available, but also to inform them of our upcoming public hearing, I guess, which gets me back to, I'll just go into this now. Christian had sent a proposal for our upcoming meeting dates and what would be at each meeting, just based on, his understanding of things. So his suggestion right now is February 7th. We would just meet and have an overall discussion. And, we can go through the scoring of the projects, just talk about all the projects in general, weighing them against each other. Any thoughts that we have. And then February 23rd, 5:30 PM at John Zahn could be our public hearing. And then that would just be almost entirely just public hearing, I think, for that meeting.
February 23rd?
23rd, yeah. So this is proposal right now. It doesn't have to be this, but, and then he was saying March 9th at 5:30 here. A public hearing debrief about what we learned and another overall discussion of the projects. And then March 23rd, 5:30 here, we would meet to vote on recommendations to city council.
These are all Thursdays, Mr. Chairman.
I would have to look at the calendar, but I believe that they are.
The 7th is a Tuesday.
Oh, 7th is a Tuesday?
Okay. I cannot make the 7th. I have a select board meeting on the 1st, on that night. I can't make the 7th.
Okay. So, yeah, that was a Tuesday,
Mhm.
23rd is a Thursday. March 9th is a Thursday. March 23rd, March 23rd is a Thursday. So
Marches
that-
are all Thursday.
Yeah, the February 7th is the only one that's not. He said there's a big Main Street design meeting on February 9th.
Yes.
And that's why he was suggesting not doing it that day, because some of us may
have to be there.
at that meeting, or
Right.
may want to attend it, or other
Right.
people might attend it, who might want to attend our meeting also. So that's why he was saying the 7th
Yeah.
for that week.
Okay.
Cool.
And is that all? Does that sound reasonable? I mean, I know Tom said he can't make it to that one, but
Fine with me.
It's okay.
Yeah, it's a packed schedule, but this is crunch time, so.
Mhm.
yeah. Yeah, and I think,
Just on March 9th,
yep,
I don't know how much public hearing we're going to have.
yeah.
If we don't have public hearing, can we move some of our possible other business for that meeting so we could, I don't know how to put that into a public meeting format so that it makes sense.
I'm sorry, I'm not,
But we have to put the agenda out
Yeah.
publicly. And
Yeah.
so if there's a public hearing, but then people don't come, then can we move some of our voting in or discussion into that?
oh,
Okay, so
Yeah.
if no, so it kind of an if no, or
if nobody shows
if
up.
nobody shows up, or if there is very little activity on the public, in the terms of the public hearing.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, I think
that's-
it's good to have something in there, just like discussion on projects.
Right,
You
right,
know,
yeah.
and then,
Yeah,
Yeah, so certainly
Yeah.
seems like we could, if nobody shows up, we could discuss, we could look at Christian's grid on like what everybody thought about all the projects. We could have some idea like how much, alignment we have on our thoughts on it. And maybe like, sort of spitball some like, what would it look like if we did like 10,000 here and 100,000 here and 20,000 here and skipped this one and did 4,000 this one, and gave this one a contingency thing.
yeah.
Right, that would be a
Yeah.
plausible.
Yeah,
And then, but we don't vote on it.
so,
Yeah,
I'm-
yeah. Go ahead,
Can I
Donna.
say something? So I'm just like thinking about like we're talking about putting out the public hearing. I mean, I think that we need to have a point where we like say, okay, public comments, public hearing are closed. And that's when we really, start doing our decision making, because we can't really be making decisions before that. I mean, it seems like the optics would be really bad to like, so I almost wonder if, like, we have to figure out like when we're gonna say, okay, you've had your chance, now your time for commenting is done. At which point we enter deliberations, and up until that point, we're really just doing clarifying, like, so, that $1,000, the volunteers aren't getting paid, so it really is a match, and like comparing our notes and all that kind of stuff, and sort of, that's just my thought, because I feel like we can't do any deliberating about the actual like funding until after all that's in my view.
right, I agree.
And I'm also like not that concerned about people not showing up, because, I mean, we had a lot of people at our first public hearing, and this is gonna be like actually discussing the projects that we're gonna be voting on, so
Okay.
I would be very surprised if it was like
Okay.
attended.
Right, and so then
Never mind.
if they don't show up, it's like, okay, they had their chance, so we can get right into it, as long as that's like the last point for a public
Yeah.
comment.
And
That's
so I
all I'm
guess,
saying. Definitely.
yeah, and so I guess that's another question is, okay, we'll have the public hearing and we have this form. I think we should I think maybe after the public hearing, but before our meeting after that is when the form closes. So we can mention at the public hearing, there's also this form, if you're watching this online, or, if you want to give us further comments later, you have another week to fill out this form. and then that's going to close, and then we'll talk about it at our next meeting. We can't close it right before our next meeting because somebody's got to go through all this and like, get all the data out.
Yeah.
But sure, well, I mean, even just like 2 days, like, oh, you have 2 days after the public hearing. Yeah, Christy, you have a suggestion on that?
Yeah, I was just gonna suggest, like you brought up this form, like if you, in the press release, you said you're gonna mention this form and tell
Yes.
them about the 23rd being the hearing. Why don't you just use like March 1st as the deadline for all feedback, whether it's form or email or public comment? And that way Christian will have several days to sort of, I'm assuming he's the one that will bring everything together for you guys to then be able to have something to review before the 9th.
Yeah.
That feels right. And then the 9th would be the end of any kind of public comment, including the public hearing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That sounds.
And
that
end of the
sounds-
month. You have till the end of the month, basically. Would be the.
That makes sense.
And then Travis, could I ask one other question?
Sure.
So you guys will hopefully vote on the 23rd for the projects. And then who is putting forward the financial orders? Are you guys doing that and giving right to Diana?
So I need to talk to Christian. Christian said that he and MJ have been figuring that out. So he's not here at this meeting, so I can't ask him, but
I know he's
knows.
doing double duty tonight.
Yeah, he's
It sounded like basically we're giving recommendations to the city council.
But it is through a financial order though.
Yeah.
Right, but then, any financial order still has to come. We are recommending to the council that they approve that financial order, but the financial order would still have to come through the mayor's office, I think.
Right. And the finance
Right.
director, yeah.
Right,
Well, so I do know that the mayor was receiving legal counsel advice about how that all works. And I haven't been privy to what the outcome of that was, but I think Christian does know. So that's why I'm going to rely on him to walk us through that process.
Why don't we ask for that to be part of our discussion on the 7th?
7th.
Meaning the process?
The process.
Process for financial order.
For financial order.
Okay, it is 6:58, so we're almost at the end of our meeting here.
So wait, I just want to clarify, are we suggesting then that Christian is the one who's going to go through all the forms and put all that in some kind of thing that we can?
Well, I can talk to him and, I mean, some of that stuff is going to be just numbers that'll be easy to just add up. It'll just be like the extra comments that'll be, I think it'll depend on how many there are. Like if there's 1,000, like we might have to break it up and, he can like email people or something.
Yeah,
but,
that's fine.
Yeah, we'll get graphs and charts of like this project, this bar,
Right.
that people are in the middle on it. This bar, they're way up and we'll be able to do some sort of spot comparisons just based on those initial 3 questions. How important is this to you? How important do you think it's to the town? And then the meat of like, the comments is where people sort of, put their heart into it, I guess. Yeah.
So that might take some more time to work through the comments, but I'll be in touch with Christian and we'll figure something out.
All right.
Travis, could I ask one more question?
Sure.
So I was just trying to run some numbers because I know that obviously we can't fund you guys can't fund all of this.
Yeah.
So the 20,000 is the minimum for each category.
It's the minimum that's in, there's 20,000 in each category pot.
Yep. And then is it 275 that's left over? Because I heard last time 335, so I was really confused.
335 is the total.
Total. It breaks down at 16.5 in historical, 100,000 in housing, and 218.5 is right now in recreation, open space. And that comes out to 335.
What
So-
are those numbers?
Wait, what do you,
The numbers that
I-
we've received, what we've received in
Okay.
terms of requests.
Oh, requests.
16.5 in historical, 100,000 in housing, and then the rest is 218.5 is recreation. If we were to fully fund the historical and the housing and their requests. The requests are, if we're looking at it in terms of full, that's what we've got to work with.
That's the request, but the
Yeah.
actual funds.
The actual
There's
funds.
20,000 in each one, and
Right.
then there's 275 that can be used for any of them. And 335 is the total.
Right,
Okay.
and
But-
so what Christy was suggesting before, I believe, when you were looking at the fact that 80% of these are recreation, was that when you take that open money, that's not like earmarked for each, like, do we say, okay, well, 80% of the requests are in recreation, therefore we should take 80% of this, leftover funding and look at recreation. Is that correct, Christy? Is that what you were getting at?
Yeah, but obviously I think that, you guys collectively need to look at the, like I have like almost 780,000 in
Mhm.
recreation
Mhm.
requests. Some of those have had some changes with, like the ADA funding and that kind of stuff. And some of them are what I call shovel ready. Some may have capital match. You may vote with the, contingent appropriation like you spoke about earlier from Stuart's suggestion. So yeah, I mean, in an ideal world, that would be nice, but I think also looking at, each of the rec projects individually to see if I give this much, it will finish this. If I give this much, it'll match with capital, such a moving
Mhm.
piece. So that's why I was trying to get the right number. And then Susan, I'll also comment, because I also with historic, I was thinking is 16.5, but I forgot to add in the fair. So that was like
The
80.
fair, yeah, the fair, right, the fair
So-
is almost 80,000, so
Yeah,
that
so that's
changes things.
96.5
Yeah,
there.
yeah,
And then if you
You're
take
right.
off the 20, so there's 76.5, these are my notes, 76.5 in a request for historic. 100,000 with housing minus the 20, so there's 80 left. And then, this is without my adjustments, that I'm gonna give to you hopefully our next meeting for rec. But the initial request was 7,765 minus 20,000, so that leaves 756.5. And then if I add all those up, I get 913, and you have 275 for the 913.
Yep,
Right.
yeah.
this is our,
This is the dilemma, this is why I asked the question that I asked.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
But I mean,
so-
it's a good problem to have, like
Yeah.
Yeah.
there are needs, there's wish lists, there's wants.
Right.
and there's
I think
always
that-
next year.
and there is
Yeah.
always next year.
Right, right.
Well,
And
you can, but
everybody look-
you can borrow too. You have
can
the authority
We
to
can
borrow.
We can borrow from next
Oh,
year.
borrow, yeah.
I don't know.
And or we don't have to, like, we're not required to spend it.
Right,
Like, we can
Right.
say like, oh, actually, we want to put, 50,000 towards some sort of open space thing next year.
But I'll just, I think this is the discussion that we're gonna
Yes.
have at our next
Right.
meeting, so
Right.
I think we
Yeah.
should continue this then,
Right.
and, just to finish out the item that we're on, the press release for applications. So my thinking how we're gonna move forward with this is, Donna, based on the comments here, you'll just do like a quick update or, quick update to the form. And then Christian will have that. And then if there are no objections, I can work with Christian to come up with a press release like we did last time. And then just get that sent out as soon as possible. And then probably that would go out through like city Facebook and all that stuff too.
yep.
No
That's fine with
objection
me.
here.
Sorry, I think everyone spoke at once there. Dave?
I just want to say no objection here.
Okay, all right. All right, okay. Seeing no objections, I will move forward with that plan. Okay, now on our agenda, we have public comment, 2 minutes per speaker. Would anyone like to make a?
We have any public? I don't think we have any public.
I don't think we do. Well, Christie's.
Hey,
making a public-
Christie, you're a public. You can public all you want.
I support all of my projects.
What a surprise.
I also, I did send feedback to Christian on the interdepartmental forum that, Peter Miller was a neighbor of us here at the rec department and was always popping in and sharing, whether it be old pictures or postcards. And he was just near and dear to our department and my heart. So I do put a little plug in for that project just in his memory.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
And
Put
I
it
want
in
to
the
say,
public comment
doesn't Mark Zacchio, is he one of the owners of the property next to Abercrombie Park?
I don't know.
Yes.
Well, I
His
just wanted to
brother-
say that
his
early on
brother.
in pickleball, when people laughed at it, Mark and I went to a tournament together as a couple. And we played in that tournament. So the people who are now inspired by pickleball can thank us for.
Well, yes, Mark Zacchio was definitely a big supporter when we built our first pickleball courts. But his brother is actually the owner of the
Right.
the old former school.
Well, I never played in the tournament with his brother.
So much for that.
All right. Well, thanks, everybody. So our next meeting on the agenda says TBD, but I guess we've determined it will be February 7th. Oh, Christian did say February 7th or 8th. I missed that part, but I think we all decided on the 7th, except, Tom can't make it, but. Yeah, okay, so February 7th, 5:30 PM here in City Hall or by Zoom. Yes, that's the end of our agenda. Anyone want to make a motion to adjourn?
Oh, wait, let's just remind who's going to be secretary next time.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
So who's alphabetically?
Christie is a W. Giannis.
Yes.
Giannis.
Giannis, you're up next for taking notes.
You the lucky guy.
Womp womp.
As I said before, it's a good skill for everybody to have.
Yes, it is.
All right.
All right, second that motion.
All right. Motion to adjourn. Seconded. All in favor of adjourning?
Aye.
All right.
All right.
Okay.
Thanks, folks.
We are
Bye.
adjourned at 7:07 PM. We almost made it on time.
Yep.
Yeah, pretty close.